so why are we so passionate about community rec at Canucks Autism Network? Physical activity is good for everybody, autism or no autism. All the same beneficial effects that we see in the typically developing population, we also see in autism in terms of health, obviously, energy, ability to focus and be a part of educational settings is really related to how active you are, right? Participating in physical activity builds confidence, self-esteem, social skills. Ask a little kid, tell me about yourself, or what do you like? And little kids will say, I'm a dancer, or I like ballet, or I'm a hockey player, right? It's part of their identity. We have to give these kids the same opportunity to build their identity and their self-esteem that way, right? Maybe it's not sports, maybe it's art. I'm good with that too. Doesn't have to be sports, but something, right? Where they can really grow their interests and grow their own self-identity. Learning some rec skills can really open doors for families. So if you've got a kid who all of a sudden is water safe, now you can go on a family vacation at someone else's cottage. You're not terrified that they're gonna run down the dock and drown, right? Maybe your kid learns to skate. Okay, now we can take all the kids and we can go to Robson Square and do some outdoor skating together. So community rec opens doors, not just for kids, but also for families. Lots of demonstrated benefits. When we measure access and participation in community recreation, it's always lower in people with autism. It gets worse as they get older. So littler kids with autism, we're starting to see more participation, more similar to what's happening with typically developing peers. As they get older, less and less and less active. The thing that really bothers me, when I did my PhD research, I trained community swimming instructors to teach lessons to kids with autism. I'm very passionate about training people who work in community rec settings. There's not a lot of research out there. There's lots of research that shows, hey, I'm a master's student. I taught this kid to swim. And I feel like saying, good for you. Like, of course you did. You have very high level skills, lots and lots of autism training, and you taught one kid to swim. That's good. But what would be better is if you taught 10 community instructors to teach kids with autism to swim, and then they can teach 200 kids with autism to swim, right? So training is something that still is not really well done in the research, but I'm personally very passionate about it. Okay. So let's switch gears for a second and just talk about how you can pick where to start in community rec, right? You have options. Much like I sometimes controversially compare this to school systems. You have choices, right? So there are some independent schools out there. You can homeschool your kid. You can send your kid to public school. There's lots of ranges of options out there. I'm actually a big believer in a range of options because I think that a range of options allows families to make decisions that suit their own personal needs and desires. So, having said that, there are special needs or segregated programs. A lot of our programs fall in this category. They're just kids with autism. Special Olympics would be another example. VAS, Vancouver Adapted Snow Sports, is another example. Lots of groups out there right now just running programs for kids with special needs. Then you can get to a semi-inclusive program. So our soccer program is actually semi-inclusive. So we allow the siblings to participate. So we have some typically developing kids in the mix as well, which is great. I'd actually like to expand that as we go forward. You can send your child to an inclusive program with support, meaning that there's lots of rec centers out there where you sign up for a swimming lesson and they'll match your child with a volunteer support, right? Or the parent could come into the pool and actually support the child as well. Or you can just go full-blown into an inclusive program without support. So the kid's just in there with all the other kids. So how do you possibly choose? Start with your child's interests. I think that's fairly apparent. But if your kid loves watching the Canucks, they're probably going to be more motivated to learn what they need to do in a hockey setting to be successful because they just want to be there, period. I tell our coaches all the time, I think being a coach in our skate program is the hardest gig because it takes a long time for skating to be fun. First, you have to put on those really awkward things on your feet that aren't really very comfortable. Then you've got to take the risk of standing and being really wobbly on the ice. It's not really that fun yet. You're kind of cold. If you fall, it kind of hurts a lot. So until the kids get that sensation of actually skating, then it becomes really fun, right? But to get motivated kids through that initial experience is hard. That said, they'll be more motivated if they love hockey, right? Because hey, you know what? We're gonna get through this, and at some point you're gonna be able to skate and fly around just like those Canucks, right? So start with their interests. If they love the water, swimming. If they really are interested in, I don't know, anything, go with it. Think outside the box, realize that there's a lot of choices out there. You know, gymnastics is something that I'm not sure comes to front of mind for everybody, but has been really successful for a lot of families that I've worked with, due to the fact that gymnastics is often delivered in a circuit structure. That's awesome for autism, really, because it's like a routine. It's like this, very little wait time, you know? So sometimes I think just pulling out a community leisure guide and sort of having a really open mind and thinking, oh, maybe that actually would be a good fit. Ask lots of questions. I'm gonna show you a few of those in a minute. Visit the program. Most programs run in public spaces. You can just go sit and watch, right? You can sit and watch and see what the program looks like before you sign up your kid. Make sure you describe your child's needs. We're gonna talk about that in a minute, but just watch how the person responds. So if you walk into a facility and you say, I have a child with autism, I wanna put them in swimming lessons, some people are gonna go, yeah, awesome, okay, so we have some instructors who have more experience with autism and they might be a good match or whatever, and others might be less comfortable and you're gonna be able to pick up on that right away, pretty much. Go with your instincts. Consider a trial run. Ask, do you have a refund policy? So if you go the first couple times and it's a total disaster, oh well, right? Nothing really lost there. Other things I think for parents to think about, sometimes it's a nice idea to choose a non-team sport to start. Team sports, we're gonna talk about later, really complicated, right? You know, you got positions, there's competition involved. That said, a lot of team sports at the entry level are not really team sports yet. So if you sign up for like the initiation program in hockey, like little kids, they're doing little skill stations. They may be playing silly games with rubber chickens. They're not in a full-on, you're a center, go score lots of goals and beat that other team, right? It's not that at its earliest levels. In our soccer program, which doesn't start till kids are 5 and they can join whenever, like at any age, level 1 is what I like to call fun in the gym with a soccer ball. So we have some little like kick around the pylon drills, we practice our passing, we shoot at the net. There is no team play in level 1 soccer. So that's when you get into level 2, we start working on, okay, actually we can play against each other and maybe do some positioning and that sort of thing. But you know, just because it's a team sport doesn't mean that your child, there's no hope. There could be hope. It depends on how the program is structured. Other questions like, does your child have poor physical coordination and muscle tone? If that's the case, basketball might be a really tough place to start. It involves a lot of quick decisions, a lot of quick physical movement. Swimming might be a much better option. You can do a lot of stuff in swimming and build a lot of those skills in a much kind of maybe more favorable environment for that. Does your kid hate to lose? There's tons of great adapted yoga programs out there now. Adapted or not adapted, right? No competition in yoga. Martial arts is another good example, right? The kids all kind of line up and they just do their thing. And there's not like, you know, again, at its earliest stages, it's not like a really competitive thing. It's just, you know, it's much more individual. Small group inclusion, martial arts can be a nice program to have someone come in and support the child because they can very much still participate alongside. Individual sports on a team level, track and field, you know, a lot of schools have running clubs, that kind of stuff. So really they're doing an individual sport, but it's also a social experience because there's lots of other kids there. So lots of kinds of questions to think about. Here's some ideas of questions you could ask the coach or the program leader. I think these are very helpful for parents. What is the goal of this team or league or activity, right? Is the goal for the kids to become athletic superstars? Is it for them, for a lot of coaches I talk to, especially at entry level, I want the kids to have fun and I want them to be active, right? That's probably a good fit. What's your feeling about including a child with autism on your team? Ask them flat out and read how they respond to that question. How would you feel about an aide or a parent participating in this program alongside? Is that okay? What are your policies on that? How would you handle fill in something that your kid does, right? What would you do if my kid, I don't know, suddenly became totally frustrated because he didn't feel like he was doing very well? That's a challenge for my kid. He's a bit of a perfectionist, right? How would your coaches sort of support that situation if it came up? See what they say. Coaches, questions that you could turn around and ask families. What are your goals for your child in this activity, right? Is your goal for your kid to learn a lot of skills, or can we really slow down the skill development and just focus on getting and participating really successfully with the group, right? What are your concerns about his involvement? They're going to tell you straight up in most times what their concerns are. What are the sensory, communication, or behavioral issues? One comment I'll make here. Some parents, I understand, even talking to our own coaches, we see it two ways. Some parents are very much like, this is my kid, this is what he needs, these are his issues, and then we have an immediate conversation about that, right? Other parents don't do that as much for a couple of reasons. One might be they sort of feel that you're the professional in this area and that you should be sort of able to handle it. That's one thing. Another thing is they've been rejected from other locations. So we have kids at CAN who parents have eventually said to me, I was just too worried to tell you at the beginning that he might pull your hair because when he did that at this other program, he got kicked out, right? So just realize when you're having conversations with parents, some are telling you a lot of information, others are not. There's a lot of reasons for that. Try not to be too judgmental about that right off front. Just really try to engage in the conversation, be open, because the more communicate that the more information you give me, the more I can help your kid, right? What's the best way to help your child cope if issues arise? Lots of kids with autism are taught a calming down routine. Make sure you get that routine. We made the mistake once of not asking that direct question, and then we got the calm down routine, and it was like night and day with this kid. So learn those. Can you or another support person be available if it's a community setting? Can someone come with this kid for the first couple sessions to get him acclimatized or whatever the needs are? Okay, tips for parents. Try not to join sports that are very, very stressful right off the bat for your first experiences. Really competitive teams, things that sensory-wise, and this is a lot of times like maybe skating, are a bit uncomfortable. Think about non-team sports. Try different types of programs. Don't think to yourself, well, my kid could only ever do a program that's just kids with autism, or I only want my kid to ever participate in inclusive programs. Try lots of types and see what works. Because even from, probably season to season or location to location or staff to staff, sometimes things are just going to click and it's going to be a great experience and it might not be, what you expected. Just be okay with the fact that you might walk away, right? Don't feel like, that said, I think the second point goes right along with this, where sometimes you need to try for a while until the kid starts, the kid learns the routine, starts actually having fun. So maybe don't give up too quickly, but also be okay with the fact that if your instincts are telling you left, right, and center, this is not the right fit for my kid, you can walk away, right? Communicate directly with a leader or coach, letting them know about your child's needs and what will likely work well. Prepare your child for the experience he's about to have. So one thing that we're going to do at CAN this summer that I'm pretty excited about is we're going to create social stories, electronic social stories for all of our programs. So before a kid comes to swimming, he'll be able to download this thing on his iPad that says, this is the CAN swim program. I come to the pool. At the pool, I go to the change room and put away my swimming suit and picture of that. At the CAN program, I da-da-da-da-da, right? So I think the more you can, parents will now very often come to me and ask up front, can you show me the picture schedules you use in your program? Can you take a picture of the staff that's going to work with my child? Can you take a picture of the facility where my kid's going to go? Just to give their kid that sense of preparedness up front to come to the program. Finally, I would say prepare to be surprised. Prepare to allow your child to do things you never thought were possible. We probably get a story like this about once a week where there's a parent that is almost in tears. They cannot believe that their kid is finally playing hockey, or they cannot believe that their kid finally in soccer participated in the little game at the end, or they cannot believe that their kid, you name it. Give it the time, give it the patience. If your instincts are telling you everyone in this setting is really on board and we're really trying for this, and it's really, maybe it's going to happen, then stick with it, because I think you'd be amazed sometimes by what your kids can do. Questions about that? Oh, that was good timing.